Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
And I was so upset.
Racial slurs against an Indigenous woman, how police mishandled the case. Also,
I am optimistic in a way that I've not been for a long time.
Reopening BC on track to move to the next phase. And
This gym of a park has now been turned into a dump. It's disgraceful.
why parents are upset about overgrown grass in Vancouver.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Police in Pemberton have reopened an investigation into two men alleged to have used racial slurs against an Indigenous woman. Mounties admit to mishandling the case originally because police never took a statement from the victim. As John Hernandez reports, the woman calls this another instance of systemic racism within the RCMP.
It was supposed to be a day of mourning. Tara Alec came to her porch after hearing about the discovery at the Kamloops residential school. It was a tragic reminder of the pain her parents went through at the same school.
I was in deep prayer, praying for my dad, my mom, all of my ancestors, all of the 250 children.
During her small ceremony, she heard laughter from a truck nearby. She says two men inside started calling her racist and derogatory names.
And I was basically in shock. I was like, what is going on here? And I put this down. I went down the stairs and I looked at the vehicle that was backing out and I put my hands up like, what is going on?
So Alec reported the incident to the RCMP. Officers visited the two suspects, but they never took an official statement from her. The case was closed shortly after.
And I was so upset because I didn't understand how it could be concluded if I was the one that phoned and my statement wasn't taken. Basically listening to the other side's story and not listening to mine.
Alex says she has filed a complaint against the responding officer. RCMP declined an interview, but in a public statement said it expresses regret about how the case was handled. The case has been reopened, with officers now promising a thorough investigation.
Unfortunately, it seems to be some common practice.
This Indigenous professor says the mishandling of the case highlights the need for greater cultural competency within the RCMP and better education across the board.
There is simply no understanding with respect to the history of Canada, colonization, and the policing of Indigenous peoples.
As for Alec, she just wants justice and a more welcoming place to call home.
Just all of us in Canada, every nation, every race should be collectively working together to make Canada a better place.
John Hernandez, CBC News, Pemberton.
It's called a Scared Straight Tour. It's a guided walk of Vancouver's downtown east side. The goal is to scare youth away from a life of addiction. But as Joel Ballard reports, after recent criticism, the company appears to have canceled all future bookings.
And alcohol destroyed me, you know. I became an alcoholic very fast.
A taste of the experience in a promotional video from Scared Straight Tours. A 2-day tour including hotel, meals, and guided walks through the downtown east side. We're blurring the faces of those involved to protect their privacy.
I suggest you guys make the right choice, stay in school, graduate. Don't end up down here because this is where it's going to bring you to the drugs, alcohol, work in the street.
But as of this morning, the website scrubbed empty. The video's gone. All tours canceled. And it's unclear why. But it coincides with a recent Twitter thread calling the program exploitive.
Somebody is making a profit from the trauma, the history of people in the downtown east side. The messaging around being scared straight is showing that it's, or indicating that maybe it's just a choice or that it's a judgment of people.
The company's owner wouldn't answer whether any of the tour's profits actually benefit those in the downtown east side, but did say, "We remain proud of the work we have done over the past 20 years and that we were able to reach thousands of youth who have taken our program." Not everyone agrees scare tactics are beneficial.
I think they're also incredibly ineffective.
Along with trauma, FAST, who studies at-risk youth, says fear and uncertainty about the future is a big reason why youth gravitate towards drugs. Instead of scaring them straight, these tours can create a sense of hopelessness.
The future that they see sort of unfolding in the downtown east side is increasingly the only one that's available to them if they keep using drugs.
And that hopelessness can lead them further into addiction. A better approach, she says, is opening up the conversation with youth, effectively speaking with them, not to them. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, BC is on pace to move to the next phase of reopening as scheduled. The latest COVID numbers are showing some positive trends, and our Tanya Fletcher is here to take us through the data. Tanya, what are we seeing?
Yeah, so Dr. Bonnie Henry says she's optimistic in a way that she has not been for a long time, if that's any indication. And that mostly has to do with how well the vaccines are working, she says. So let's take a look at one of the key metrics. Today was modeling day, and this here measures region by region BC's reproductive rate, which means if I'm infected, how many others am I infecting? So in all of the graphs, you'll notice that same dotted horizontal line. That shows the target threshold of 1. That's the goal. So in every health region, you can see that number is currently below 1 and steadily declining for the first time in many, many weeks. Now let's also take a look at the dynamic compartmental modeling, which takes into account various scenarios. So the colored curves on your right of the screen are the possible trajectories. And the top one, the purple, is the worst case. So even if social contacts revert back to 80% of normal, the curve you see goes up only slightly before coming back down as immunizations continue.
Over the next few weeks, we are likely to see more cases arise, but they're not going to be widely transmitted in our communities the way that we have seen before. So we are confident now that we can manage a slight increase in cases as we move forward over the next few weeks.
So obviously this all sounds like very positive news. So what does it mean for the next phase of reopening?
It sets the stage to move to the next step as planned come Tuesday of next week. The Premier will be at that briefing as well, if that's any indication. But remember, there are 3 benchmarks that must be met before entering the next phase on June 15th. Declining cases, declining hospitalizations, and 65% of the adult population with at least 1 dose. We've already checked off each of those boxes, which is what gives health officials that cautious confidence.
We still are in a bridging place. We're not in a place where we can fully take away all of the things that we've been doing to prevent transmission. But we're getting towards that, and part of it is because we have safe and effective vaccines, and part of it is because we are reducing the numbers of risky contacts we have and getting tested. So all of those things will continue to be important in the next few weeks as we move into July.
So bottom line, the recent dramatic drop in cases paired with low hospitalizations and a steady vaccination pace means that yes, BC is on track to ease those more restrictions come next week. Anita?
Thanks, Tanya. Well, to some of those numbers now, nearly 75% of all adults have gotten at least 1 dose of a COVID-19 vaccine in BC. Health officials say the province is now administering vaccines at a rate of about 325,000 shots each week. The rolling average keeps dropping, with 153 cases reported today. Unfortunately, 4 more people have died of the virus. BC's children's watchdog says the province's child welfare system is failing Indigenous kids by not giving them culturally relevant care. And the death of a teenage girl shows how much needs to change. A warning, some details in this disturbing story may be distressing. Dan Burrett joins us with more. Dan, first of all, who was this young girl?
Anita, her name is Sky. She was a young, bright First Nations girl said to have bubbled with energy as a child. But almost 4 years ago, she died of an overdose on her 17th birthday in Nanaimo. She was taken from her mother, a 60-scoop survivor, at age 5 and bounced between 8 different foster homes, 8 different schools, 18 different social workers, and 3 failed adoptions. BC's representative for children and youth says Sky was never given a consistent chance to connect to her Dene culture, nor be able to visit her home territory in the Northwest Territories, even though she asked for both. Instead, there was too much emphasis on finding her an adoptive home, not supporting a potential return to her mother, or at least allow them to have a relationship.
Sky and her mom experienced abuse during their childhoods. Both experienced mental health and substance use challenges, but both could have had better lives, might have had a lasting relationship with one another, and might have had different fates had they been better supported to deal with past traumas and to find ways through their current states.
Charlesworth recommends that the Ministry of Children and Family Development take a serious look at the cultural and family support resources it needs to make sure social workers have the support to promote a sense of belonging and identity for Indigenous children in care, among other recommendations. BC's Minister for Children and Family Development says the province agrees with the report.
I have heard the calls from Indigenous communities and leaders and from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to stop bringing Indigenous children into care. And I have asked my staff to work with our Indigenous partners to bring us closer to that vision.
Jennifer Charlesworth says the report should be especially relevant given the preliminary findings that suggest more than 200 children are buried at the site of the former Kamloops Indian Residential School. Anita.
Thanks, Dan. Vancouver Canucks forward Jake Virtanen is denying allegations that he sexually assaulted a woman in 2017. In a response to the civil lawsuit filed against him last month, Virtanen says he and the woman had consensual sex. He denies she, quote, expressed any indication, verbal or physical, that she did not want to engage in physical activity. The 24-year-old is asking for the lawsuit to be dismissed and for the court to award him special costs due to the nature of the allegations. A historic decision-sharing agreement has been reached between the TelTan Nation and the BC government.
We're getting closer and closer to a true nation-to-nation relationship, which is ultimately going to make sure that TelTan territory has more certainty and more prosperity for all stakeholders.
The agreement sets guides for land use and resources, economic development funds, and recognition of TelTan governance. BC is committing $20 million as part of the agreement to develop plans for mineral exploration and mining. An international Bhangra singer who grew up in Surrey says he's been silenced on Twitter in India. Jazzy B is convinced the shutdown is in response to his outspoken support for Indian farmers. Jazzy B says he feels connected to the farmers protesting controversial new agriculture laws. He says he got an email from Twitter confirming he's been blocked in his home country for violating India's Information Technology Act, but that it offered no details about why he was censored. CBC has asked Twitter and several Indian officials for comment, but has not heard back. Johanna is off tonight, and we welcome the wonderful Amy Bell here with the forecast. Amy, seems like we're in for quite the soggy weekend.
Yeah, it seems to be playing out that way. No surprise this time of year, January as they like to call it. And we saw a fair bit of rain very quickly, very early this morning. Even earlier, we started off with sunshine and then it clouded over quite dramatically and we saw these intense cells. For the most part, it has been dry for the rest of the day, but we will return to some showers by tomorrow afternoon. And looking forward to the weekend, yes, we do have another system arriving that will bring some rain. So we'll catch a little bit of a break this evening and overnight in many areas, but you can see that next system arriving, bringing plenty of precipitation. It won't be a total washout. It'll be later in the afternoon when we do see those showers developing. And same story for the weekend. Not this continual rainfall, but certainly Friday and Saturday, I think, to be the wettest. Sunday, we'll see things easing, but we will see those temperatures rising a little bit as well. So into the low 20s, and then we'll probably continue with the showers into early next week as well, but I'll have another look in just a few minutes.
I don't mind the warm rain, a little tropical.
It's a nice wet, warm sort of thing instead of cold and wet.
Exactly. Thanks, Amy. Well, people living near an East Vancouver park are frustrated with the overgrown grass in the area. They blame a pilot project. 18 grassy areas are being left to grow long in hopes of attracting more bees, butterflies, and pollinators. But as Christina Jung explains, some say the result has been less than pretty.
Falaise Park near Boundary Road has been a go-to place for Megan Watson and her neighbors throughout the pandemic. But this spring, that's changed.
This park last year during the heat of COVID saw many different activities, from sports to children playing with their parents, birthdays, weddings, and nobody comes here anymore.
Watson has been living beside the park for more than 20 plus years and says this is the first time she's been afraid for her safety.
I've made at least 30 calls to the city in regards to needles that I've seen left behind by certain people that come to this area now.
She's also seen more coyotes canvassing the area and people treating it like a dump.
They're just parking their cars wherever they like in the park because it looks unsightly. And, you know, why not? I've seen people dirt biking in the park. I've seen, you know, other vehicles driving in the park.
According to the city's park board, the pilot project started in 2021 in response to a citywide desire for natural habitats. And a sign in the park encouraged users to explore the meadow and enjoy the new landscape. But Watson doesn't see how anyone would want to walk through the long grass, not knowing what lies at their feet.
You know, so we wouldn't choose a flat place where people like to picnic or sit on the grass. That wouldn't make any sense. So they looked at places that were quite sloped, you know, quite hilly. And then chose those. But the rationale also is that it cuts back considerably on greenhouse gas emissions.
A perimeter trail was cut around the park for users to still enjoy the area, and some trails have also been cut through the grass as well. But it will most likely be left uncut until the project ends, and until then, Watson and her neighbors will have to make do with the new landscape. Christina Jung, CBC News, Vancouver.
During the NHL playoffs on CBC, just a reminder of how and where you can watch this show. We'll be on every weekday at 6 p.m. online, streaming on CBC Gem, YouTube, and Facebook, and then we'll be on TV after the hockey game each evening. Those times will vary depending on when the game starts and when it ends. You can always watch our show on demand, streaming at our website, cbc.ca/BC. The accused in a horrific attack on a family made his first court appearance in Ontario today, facing 4 murder charges already. Why he may soon be charged with more. Next. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. Well, Theodore Tugboat was a much-loved, popular CBC series for kids, and a replica of the famous tug has called the Halifax waterfront home for years. But Theodore, too, recently said goodbye to his home waters and set sail for Ontario. Here's Colleen Jones with a story of his send-off.
I'm on the tugboat Dominion Enforcer, and we're crossing Halifax Harbor, or the Big Harbor as it's known in the Theodore Tugboat series. We're meeting up with the star himself, Theodore too, leaving his home port for new adventures. You ever seen a boat with a hat before, Morgan? Morgan McPherson Rideout and his family are here for the final farewell.
Came down to see Theodore off. He's flying the Nova Scotia flag and Canadian flag.
That's Dennis Campbell. His company, Ambassadors, put Theodore on the market last summer with COVID crushing the tourism season.
Bittersweet because, you know, on one hand, you know, we hate to see him go, but on the other hand, he's going to go on his new adventure.
So with Theodore backing up, I jumped back on the tugboat.
Sad to see him go. He's part of the whole culture here, you know. So we'll see how he makes out up in the fresh water.
Bought by Blair McKeel, Theodore's heading to Hamilton, where he'll do educational work with environmental groups Swim, Drink, Fish and Great Lakes Guide, promoting clean, safe water. Peggy's Cove tour operator Peter Richardson is serving as first mate for this trip.
This is a big deal. It's a big deal for everybody in Nova Scotia and for us to take it up to St. Lawrence.
Before he gets to the St. Lawrence and the Great Lakes, Theodore heads up Halifax Harbor for one last trip. He's followed by a flotilla of tugs. 2 from Dominion Diving, 2 from Atlantic Towing, and of course, the pilot boat. They showed up en masse. They know full well Theodore's role in educating people about the importance of tugs and marine work. It makes Theodore a bit of a rock star in their world.
He's a piece of our harbor. You know, I was there the day they launched him down in La Haye. I was there with my little girls, who aren't little girls anymore, and yeah, it's like full cycle.
Built in Dayspring, Nova Scotia, launched in 2000, Theodore became a favorite on the Halifax waterfront. Where else in the world can you find a tugboat with this smiling face and a red cap? As he made his turn to head out of the harbor, some workers waved goodbye. The pilot boat did a spin in the harbor as a nod of thanks. Theodore, too, is leaving the safety of the big harbor, and who knows what friends and adventures await him on his way to Hamilton. Meanwhile, as we head back without the red-capped tug, the harbor, well, it's a little less colorful.
Now he's gone, so yeah, I'm sad to see him go.
Bye, Theodore. Thanks for the memories. Colleen Jones, CBC News, on the Big Harbor.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell. Here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Join CBC Vancouver News at 6 host Anita Bathe at 2 amazing events this June. CBC Vancouver is a proud returning media sponsor of the Indian Summer Festival. Get your tickets today. And on June 23rd, Anita will moderate a panel of medical experts at UBC Dialogues Medical Innovations. Where is technology leading us? Learn more at alumni.ubc.ca.
The man accused in a fatal attack on a Muslim family in London, Ontario, appeared in court today via video link. He's charged with killing a mother, father, grandmother, and 15-year-old girl in what police say was a targeted hit and run. Thomas Dagla has the details of what happened in court and how the family is being honored.
As hard as this week has been for Sana Yassir, seeing her handmade ribbons appear all over London gives her strength.
The purple resembles Yumna's favorite color, and then the green resembles Islamophobia. We see this and it gives us relief that we are being supported.
She was close to the family. Yumna Afzal, Madia Salman, Talat Afzal, and Salman Afzal all killed Sunday. Their young boy Fayez still in hospital. The man accused of attacking them remains in this London jail. He appeared in court virtually. Few pictures have emerged of Nathaniel Veltman, and police in Canada don't always release mugshots. But now these court sketches provide a glimpse of what he looks like. At the court appearance, he was practically emotionless as he spoke briefly over Zoom.
It didn't look like he had a care in the world, and that was very upsetting for me to watch that.
As police continue their investigation at Veltman's London apartment, CBC News has been speaking with acquaintances and reviewing court documents that tell of turbulent recent years and signs of aggression. Documents from 2016 related to his parents' divorce say he was prescribed medication and told to attend counseling for obsessive-compulsive disorder and depression. His mother stating he'd become so combative and argumentative, "I have to lock myself in my bedroom." In his hometown of Strathroy, police say his name appears in 14 incidents from 2016 to 2020. We spoke to a friend of the suspect who says he went fishing with him on this trip just 2 weeks ago. He says the man has a drinking problem and in recent days lost his grandmother who was supporting him financially. London police say the accused targeted the family because they're Muslim.
I can confirm that this is being actively investigated as a terrorist act by the police authorities.
He's charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder.
The CBC's Thomas Dagla reporting tonight. Leaders of the G7 are gathering in Cornwall, England, including Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. This is their first face-to-face summit since 2019. Trudeau arrived earlier today on his first foreign trip in more than a year. COVID-19 vaccine inequity and economic recovery are all up for discussion. Trudeau is also expected to meet with U.S. President Joe Biden to discuss plans to reopen the Canadian-American border. The summit officially begins tomorrow. Well, there isn't really much that can stop an elephant. One man's close call with a thundering beast next.
at downtown Vancouver, a city that's come to a virtual standstill. Right now, tens of thousands of Canucks fans are sharing the experience of Game 5. And outdoor living rooms like these have sprung up throughout the city, and you just know these fans are hoping for a better ending against the Boston Bruins in the past 2 games. Our Chris Brown doesn't have a ticket for tonight's game, but he carved out a spot in downtown Vancouver, and well, he's made some new friends there. Chris?
Well, Kim, Vancouver fans hope that they can be the difference for their team this time. The Canucks defense and the Canucks offense, of course, sputtered when they were in Boston. Maybe all these people can help jazz things up. There is a huge crowd out tonight. They're expecting the biggest one of the series so far, maybe more than 70,000 by the end of the night.
One last shout out before they shut down Vancouver's downtown at noon.
Confident, nervous.
After 2 discouraging losses, some of the bravado was gone, confidence replaced by hopefulness. But by game time, the streets in front of the giant TV screens were packed once again.
I've had some long nights, lost some sleep, but today I'm feeling pretty good.
You got to just show that, you know, you support your team, you back your team, and freaking just yell out and don't be afraid, man.
These young women certainly have no fear. How's this for naked ambition? They took it all and had the Canuck colors painted on their chests instead.
It's cold, but it's awesome. It's for a great cause, and it's a very unique way for us to show our love for our boys, and anything to do that. This is our year.
$2 got you a photo. Needless to say, they were a big hit.
Fantastic.
On the sidelines, the scalpers didn't have quite the field day they had for games 1 and 2. At game time, resale tickets for tonight were a mere $600, down from a peak of $2,000 before the trip to Boston.
Still, some of the best seats in the house to see this game are, of course, free, and everyone's taking advantage of them. There are lots and lots of food vendors out here, more porta potties than I've ever seen in one place, and tons of people with blue beards and green beards, and it's just a sea of Canuck jerseys, Kim.
Well, with that huge crowd there, are police taking any extra precautions?
Well, the Vancouver police have not spoken about the number of officers that they have on duty. They've never done that, other than to say the overtime budget's going to be pretty big. Instead, they've tried to engage people and engage them in some cases with humor. I'll tell you about this tweet they just put out not all that long ago. Drinking in public, $230. Peeing in public, $230. Watching a playoff game with thousands of new friends, priceless. There you go, Kim.
Good stuff. Well, I guess they got a sense of humor. Thanks so much, Chris.
Time once again to look at the full forecast. Amy Bell is here for Johanna tonight. Amy, how long is this rain going to last?
Depends. You mean like each individual shower, or, you know, for the month ahead? We are definitely heading into a bit of a wetter stretch for the next several days. It won't be constant, but we will see these showers coming in, especially tomorrow afternoon. We should stay dry in a lot of areas this evening, though there is a risk of thunderstorms, especially against the North Shore mountains. We just have unsettled weather, which we saw this morning when it was blue sky and then intense showers at times, and then back to blue sky. So for tomorrow, the rain, the system will be coming up from the south, so it will be bringing some warmer air with it at least, but certainly we'll see it hitting the North or the Vancouver Island stretch earlier in the day, and then by the time it moves over to the mainland, it'll be later in the afternoon. So if you're out early around Metro Vancouver and out to the Fraser Valley, you may just catch the clouds before it gets too wet. Sunday, I think, is going to be the real wet one. Not so bad for other areas of the province, but unsettled for Prince George. You'll see some sunshine and some showers. Unsettled in Dees Lake with a high of 16 and some thunderstorms, and Cranbrook looking at a mix of sun and cloud, and again, that risk of showers. But for us, we are looking at fairly bleak weather as we head into the weekend. By Tuesday, we do start to dry out a little bit, and I do think we'll see some return to sunshine later in the week.
Looking forward to that for sure. I've got my sunshine shirt on today.
I love it. It's bringing some brightness. We can use it. Yeah. And it was a nervous moment for a delivery driver in South Africa when a lumbering elephant paused while crossing the street and turned towards his truck.
my goodness. The animal crumples his hood like a chip bag. He'd stopped to let the elephant pass, but the giant decided he was too close for comfort and charged. The driver was shaken but not hurt and decided it was safer to stay inside the vehicle until help arrived.
Oh, that's always a good idea.
Not sure. I don't know what I would do. Would I stay in the vehicle or not? I feel like it's a dangerous.
Never have to find out.
I don't think you will. All right, that is it for our show tonight. You can always find it online, cbc.ca/BC. Dan is here at 11 after the National. Good night.